Anyone else feel like they just missed the ninth generation of consoles? I know I do, and I think that should really concern everyone because I've owned a PlayStation 5 since 2020. Sony reported lately that they're now moving into the latter stages of the PlayStation 5's life cycle after it failed to meet expectations over holiday 2023. And it's not like Xbox ever reports sales anymore, but everything I've heard suggests they are drowning. Reportedly, they've got PlayStation 5 Pros and Xbox Series X revisions on the horizon. People are beginning to discuss the PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox, and I just don't feel like it should happen yet. It's been 4 years since the pandemic. Wait, am I not 14 years old? And it still feels like we're waiting on the next generation to start, so what's gone wrong?
No, seriously, this isn't a joke. What do you mean I turned 18 today? I'm supposed to be 14. Life stopped at 2020. What do you mean?
Well, COVID, for starters. The pandemic was naturally going to have an impact on both the PS5 and the Series X, seeing how we basically went from, hey guys, look at our shiny new PS5 with all this new technology, to worldwide shutdown, fuck you. Both consoles, in fact hardware in general, were hit by the global semiconductor shortage during 2020, and that put a massive strain on how many consoles could be produced. So you pair that with the accidental release of pre-orders immediately after the PlayStation 5 showcase, and these things ended up rarer than gold.
Like, seriously, you had to have contacts to get a hold of one of these. The Series X was no different too. Global semiconductor shortage affected everything, and it took years for demand to finally match the stock. And to be honest with you, I think that's more to do with the demand falling than the stock rising, at least for the consoles.
All of this is probably the biggest reason we false started this generation, because not only are you now faced with consoles that are flying off the shelves but landing in the entertainment centers of no one, but you've got a pandemic making it near impossible for people to enter stores and physically pick one up and or brawl for one the old-fashioned way. It's not even a case of no one being able to own a PS5 or Series X and start playing it. No one could even go outside and look for one. You just had to stare at the store page render of it and refresh. It's there, and now it's gone because a bot program insta-bought the entire store stock and listed it on eBay for $1,000. If you bought a scalped Xbox because your back was against the wall and your kid really needed one for Christmas, I don't blame you. I blame the people who did this in the first place. It's not even about,
wow guys, I just need my Xbox Series X right on my doorstep by November 10th.
It's just reselling anything for a marked up price during a global crisis, entertainment or not, is pretty scummy. And not to mention, this dragged on and on and on, arguably longer than COVID was considered a major thing worldwide. You couldn't really reliably buy a next-gen console until at least late 2022, and I think the PlayStation 5 was scarce for even longer. I think Sony saw this coming too. Maybe not to this scale, but they certainly knew it would be a struggle to get a PS5 because of the chip shortage, and I think this is when they made what I like to call a boss call. Jim Ryan had previously said, and I quote, "We have always said that we don't believe in generations, and that, in our view, people should make games that can make the most of these features." So this, of course, is why God of War Ragnarok released on the PlayStation 4 in 2022.
Games that almost definitely would have released exclusively for the PS5 were now also coming to PS4. Sony effectively copied the Microsoft strategy. Though admittedly this was to a much lesser extent than Microsoft's strategy. Like, this PS5 exclusive launched with the console. Microsoft didn't do that. It wasn't like every game was coming to current gen, but a decent chunk of games you'd expect to drive PS5 sales were now coming to PS4. And I have mixed feelings on that.
Okay, so there's pros and cons to this. On the one hand, if you release a game on your console that has 100 million users as opposed to one, you get more people buying and playing your game. It's a good thing for consumers because it relieves the pressure of trying to get a Series X for Halo Infinite. And it's a good thing for software sales because physically more people can buy your game. But wait, if everyone can buy God of War Ragnarok,
why did I even buy a PS5 in the first place?
Welcome to the other hand. Bye-bye potential hardware sales, at least for the next few years. I mean, let's not pretend this isn't something that hasn't existed in some form across many years of video games. When the SNES was out, Nintendo still made original games for the NES. When Twilight Princess's release date conveniently lined up with the launch date of the Wii, guess what happened? I mean, FIFA 14 was released for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, and PlayStation 2. That's nearly 15 years worth of hardware development, and this game works on all of them. And if you do this for a year, maybe two, these games dropping on PlayStation 4 probably provide more pros than cons, even if it's a surprise to see what you would expect to be a console seller make its way to older systems. But now we're talking about support for the PS4 winding down in 2025, and that just feels a little too long to give. How many God of War Ragnaroks does Sony have up its sleeve before they're out of big hardware selling games to release exclusively for the PlayStation 5?
It's really tough to say to people, no, your console should no longer receive new games. but I think there has to be a cutoff point somewhere. For the sake of the development teams that want to push these consoles to their limits, there's got to be a cutoff. But then again, if the only updates on the PS5 versions are higher detailed fur, faster resolution times, higher resolutions, then why are we getting a PlayStation 5 in the first place?
Like, I'm not stupid for suggesting this idea, right? Even as an early adopter of the PS5, I get the idea as games are trying to push into 4K resolutions and 60 or 120 frames per second, and we need the better hardware to do that. But if you have around 9 months between the mainly agreed upon start of the pandemic, and the PS4 Pro can still give you God of War Ragnarok at 1440p, I think delaying the console is the better option here. And the same goes for the Series X, even more so because this console was, is known for having virtually zero exclusive games. The point I'm trying to make is, instead of allowing the 9th gen systems to build up a reputation of having no games, why not give your Pro models, which are clearly still capable of running your next gen games, more time to fill the gap?
Though admittedly, I do know pretty damn well that the PS4 does start to get a bit sweaty running modern games nowadays. Like, I tried to run a leaked build of Grand Theft Auto 6 on it, and all I got was
And I'll be honest, of all companies, Microsoft was sort of aware that no one was ready. They realised that it wasn't feasible to get a launch lineup and the Series X and S ready for November 2020, so they made a bold decision and delayed their flagship title, Halo Infinite, until 2021, to give the team more time to get ready for launch. I've tried to make it well known by now that I support delaying games for the benefit of the team and overall quality of the final product. And oh boy did Infinite need a quality boost. I had no problem with them delaying Halo, except for one teeny tiny issue that just slipped under the radar at Xbox HQ. I forgot to delay the console too. I really struggled to wrap my head around this, low-key. Was it that important for you to launch alongside Sony? It was a pretty bad exclusive launch lineup for the PlayStation, but you literally told us outright that you were going to bring nothing to the table. Why would I ever pick you over Sony? I think, and I could be wrong on this, there's a reason I sit and natter about the consoles to a camera instead of making them myself, that launching alongside your competition but looking pathetically inferior to them is worse than simply launching a year later. I mean, the PS3 launched a year later than the Xbox 360 and against all odds won the 7th generation, discounting that weird thing. And they didn't even stick it into 5th gear until 2009. I just don't understand why you would ever launch a console this way.
Sorry, I genuinely don't want to seem like a console war nerd here. I want to criticize both Sony and Microsoft equally, but I just feel like Microsoft have dropped the ball more than Sony, and I think everyone can admit that this generation.
I mean, you've probably seen the podcast by now, right? Phil Spencer sat down and spoke about updates on the Xbox business, probably the biggest story in gaming for the last 20 years when it broke a week or two prior, and I thought it...
Oh my god, did I sleep through the podcast? I slept through the last 3 weeks! Okay, this is not a problem. I'll just give my thoughts like this, unscripted, so we can get this video out quickly because it has been far too long and I'm already so far delayed, and the event is 3 weeks old and it's past its prime. I thought it was really underwhelming. Like, honestly, I thought I'd be sat here talking about like, oh, Xbox is over, oh, Xbox are at the console race, but really, they're just bringing 4 games over. And like, in retrospect, this probably is the downbreaking. Phil Spencer can say it's not as much as he wants, but realistically, they're going to do well on other platforms, and they're probably going to look to bring Halo, Forza, etc. over. At least that's what I think will happen. Like, I'm happy for the Sea of Thieves players who will now get to play with their PlayStation friends with no issues, but like, I don't know, I thought we'd have more to talk about here. So, as far as I can remember, that's like all I've got to say.
Alright, you still with me? Well, welcome back. Back to actually coherent sentences me instead of perpetually drunk yet sober and hardly understandable me. I think the main takeaway from this generation so far is it sucked. We're realistically, based on Sony statements in their financial meetings and industry trends, about halfway through this generation, with console units expected to decline year on year from this point forwards, and it still feels like it hasn't started. And I get that there is titles that are currently pushing the boundaries of this system. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looks stunning, even if I haven't had the time to try the demo yet. I know, I'm guilty. Spider-Man 2 is already out, I've been playing it, and it's spectacular. Do I even need to mention Grand Theft Auto 6 at this point? Like, you've seen it. You know it looks amazing. That is next gen at its absolute best. But all of these feel few and far between compared to the platform exclusives we got on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One that made me go, Oh yeah, my PS3 would explode trying to run this. Oh, for fuck's sake! And even then, those were honestly approaching slim pickings territory too until the very end of life of the PS4. Maybe this is a sign, and I'm jumping the gun and will immediately be proven wrong by Ghost of Tsushima 2, Halo 7, and The Last of Us Part 3. Maybe inevitable new IPs that will produce graphics I can hardly picture in my mind. Or maybe it's that the industry is reaching a wall with graphical upgrades and should start making console generations last 10, 12 years, because the previous generation can run most games decently well.
Ultimately, Sony and Microsoft are going to kill each other trying to produce the most expensive AAA game ever produced, and Nintendo will keep using their original Switch hardware until the games run at 360p 20 frames per second. Honestly, I think there's something wrong with my circuit breaker or something. This is like 2 consoles today. I need to take a break from my guilty pleasure game. In 2020, I bought a PlayStation 5, and the game I play the most on it today is EAFC 24 Career Mode. If that isn't a sign that Sony and Microsoft are failing this console generation, I really don't know what is.